On Father's Day, my son sent me a gift box that was supposed to be a surprise. But my wife looked at it and whispered, "Don't open it," I asked. "Why can't you see?" I looked closer in frozen shock. 10 minutes later, the police arrived. You won't believe what was in the box. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. I hadn't even set the box down before the phone rang. The screen lit up with Michael's name. My only son. I picked up expecting maybe a happy Father's Day or some awkward apology. Instead, his voice came fast, sharp, and already annoyed. "Dad, I need $3,000 like today." No hello. There was no question about how I was doing. Just that, like it was nothing. "For what?" He sighed like I was the unreasonable one. "Natalie's car needs repairs, and we're short on rent this month. Additionally, the kids' school trip was scheduled. I figured you'd want to help before it gets messy." Before it gets messy, that's how my son speaks to me now. Not like a son, but like a man cornering a banker. My chest tightened. I looked at the box again, the one he'd sent. It still sat on the kitchen counter untouched. Alive. "What's in the package, Michael?" There was a pause, just enough to notice what package. I kept my voice level. "The one you sent this morning." He gave a short laugh. "What are you talking about? I haven't sent anything." The lie was sloppy. He was never good at hiding guilt. Then faint in the background, I heard it, Natalie's voice, muffled, but clear enough to catch her tone, mocking. "Ask him if the thing hissed yet." Michael didn't realize I heard it. But that one sentence, that was enough. "I'm not sending you money," I said flatly. There was a pause, then a scoff. "Seriously, after everything I just said? You didn't ask Michael. You demanded." "Oh, come on, Dad. Don't act like you don't have it. You've got savings, investments, and Mom's pension. It's not like you're struggling." My hands clenched the phone tighter. "It's not about the money. It's always about the money," he shot back. "You just don't want to help your own family. That's what it is." Family. That word coming from him felt like a threat. "You've had help for the past 5 years," I said. "Every emergency, every shortfall, every bill that suddenly came up, I've paid it. Where did that get you?" "Don't turn this into a lecture, Dad. You're the one choosing money over your grandkids." That line, he knew it stung. It always had. He dangled my grandchildren in front of me, like they were pawns on a board. It was Natalie's move. I'm sure. She weaponized everything. Love, guilt, the idea of being a good parent. And Michael let her. "I'll call you later," I said. Then hung up without waiting for a reply. Jessica was still staring at the box. Her voice was quieter now, almost afraid to speak what we were both thinking. "That wasn't a gift, was it?" "No," I said. "It wasn't." I stepped back toward the counter and looked at it again, at the neat edges, the carefully punched air holes, the silence that had now returned. There was nothing about it, nothing loving. It wasn't a prank. It was a message, and that phone call confirmed it. I didn't say another word. I reached for my coffee, now lukewarm and bitter, but I didn't drink it. My hand just hovered there, still clenched from the call. Jessica moved around the box carefully, like it might bite, like she already knew what it was before the lid even came off. We both stared at it. This silent threat sitting in the middle of our kitchen. A box with my name on it, sent by the son I once carried on my shoulders through state fairs and baseball games. The same boy I taught to ride a bike. The same boy who now talks to me like a debt collector. Something inside shifted again. A quiet scraping sound. Jessica flinched. "I'm calling the police," I said. Her only response was a silent nod. 10 minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled up in front of the house. Officer Myers and his partner stepped out, one holding gloves, the other already on the radio. I led them inside without a word. "It's on the kitchen counter," I said. "We haven't touched it since it moved." They took one look at the box, saw the air holes, and called it in as a biohazard. Within minutes, animal control was dispatched. Jessica and I were asked to wait in the living room. She sat, but I stood. I didn't want to feel comfortable. Officer Myers returned with a question that made my stomach sink. "Mr. Graves, Do you have any reason to believe a family member would try to frighten you? Jessica looked up startled. I didn't answer immediately. He continued. The packaging is too deliberate to be a prank. It was delivered by a private courier. No name on the manifest. Whoever sent this didn't want to be traced. I nodded slowly. Yes, my son, Michael. His pen stopped. Do you have reason to believe he meant you harm? I believe he wanted to send a message. And I got it. Animal control arrived 10 minutes later. They opened the box like bomb tech. Slow, precise glove to the elbow. What came out wasn't explosive, but it felt like it might as well have been. A live corn snake, about 3 feet long, pale with red markings coiled tight against the cardboard. It flicked its tongue at the light, and curled in a lazy spiral, unbothered by the chaos it had caused. Non-venomous, the specialist said. Looks like it's been kept in a tank. Someone knew how to handle reptiles. I almost laughed. Of course they did. Natalie once posted Instagram stories from a reptile expo. I remembered because she bragged about holding a python like a pro. The officers packed up the box, the snake, and took statements. They offered to start an investigation. I said, no, for now. We'll file an incident report regardless. Messed. If anything else happens, even a phone call, let us know immediately. When they were gone, Jessica locked the door behind them twice. Neither of us spoke as we cleaned up the counter. I wiped the spot where the box had rested. I don't know why. There was no dirt, no stain, but it felt necessary, like trying to scrub off the violation. Then she said, almost to herself, do you think he even remembers what day it is? I didn't respond. What was the point? He remembered enough to send a box. He remembered enough not to sign his name. And he remembered enough to choose something alive, silent, and unsettling. Something that says, I'm watching, I can reach you even when you think you're safe. We sat in the living room, long after the sun started to set. I watched the orange light spill across the floorboards, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel proud of the man my son had become. I felt hunted by him. At 7:43 p.m., my phone buzzed again. A new message from Michael. Did the gift get there in one piece? No emoji, no explanation. Just that. Jessica saw the screen. Her hand covered her mouth. I didn't reply. I deleted the message and turned the phone face down. She reached for my hand, and when I didn't move, she simply held my sleeve instead. He's not going to stop, she whispered. I nodded. No, but I am. The next morning, I woke to 4 missed calls from Michael. 2 voicemails, 1 text. The message read, you ignoring me. That's fine, but don't expect Natalie to bring the kids over anymore. It wasn't even 7:30 a.m. Jessica was already in the kitchen feeding the cat, pretending not to notice I was holding the phone like it was radioactive. I didn't tell her the details. Not yet, but I knew what was coming. The second voicemail started with a fake sigh, the kind Michael used to give when he was 16, and mad about curfew. Dad, look, I know you're upset, but I'm being serious. We're in trouble here. The rent's due. Natalie's got her hands full with the kids. We just need something to get us through the month. $2,000 tops. You can do that, right? You always do. You said family helps family. Or was that just something you told me to sound wise back when I was a kid? I deleted it before it finished. Jessica brought over my coffee. You okay? I'm fine. I lied. The truth was I felt like a bank being robbed in slow motion. Every word, every call, every guilt-trip text was just another hand reaching into my coat pocket. By 10 a.m., he called again. This time, I answered. Dad. Finally, he said like I owed him something. I just wanted to know if you'd had time to think. Think about what? The transfer. Natalie's already talked to the landlord. If we can send something today, we can avoid the late fee, and the kids have that museum trip next week. They'll need new shoes. I closed my eyes. Michael, you sent me a live snake in the mail. There was silence, then a laugh, soft, measured. Oh, come on, it was harmless. Corn snake. I thought you'd get a kick out of it. Father's Day prank, you know. You always said you hated neckties. You sent your father something alive in a sealed box. I said, voice low. That's not a prank. That's a threat. Another beat of silence. Then his tone turned. Okay, if you're going to twist it like that, maybe we shouldn't be talking at all. I didn't reply. I'm serious. He snapped. You want to play the victim. Fine, but don't blame me. When the kids stop calling, when you're old and need help, and there's no one around to lift you to the toilet, is that supposed to scare me? No, it's supposed to remind you what happens when you choose money over blood. I ended the call. That evening, Jessica sat beside me on the couch, her knitting resting idle in her lap. He messaged me, she said quietly. I turned to her. He said if we're not going to help, he doesn't want us around the children. There was something in her eyes I hadn't seen before. Not sadness, not anger, just defeat. He's punishing us, I said. She nodded slowly. And Natalie, she added, sent me a photo. I felt my hands tighten. Of the kids. Jessica reached for her phone and showed it to me. Emma and Lucas sitting on the living room floor, both frowning into the camera. A chalkboard behind them read, Grandma and Grandpa don't love us enough to help Mommy and Daddy. I stared at the image for a long time. My granddaughter had a Dora the Explorer bandage on her knee. Lucas wore a Spider-Man hoodie. I'd bought him for his birthday last year. They're using the kids, I said. They've been using the kids, Jessica whispered. We just didn't want to see it. The next week was a barrage of emotional extortion. Michael called every other day, always opening with something soft. Hey, just checking in before pivoting into numbers. Natalie sent long drenched messages about how hard motherhood was, how her parents never helped, how I wouldn't understand, because I never had to choose between groceries and gas. They were laying bricks, building a wall of shame around us, one complaint at a time. On Friday, Michael called during dinner. Jessica looked at me and shook her head, but I answered anyway. I don't know why. Habit, maybe. Dad, he said, voice rushed. Okay, listen, I just got off the phone with the car place. Natalie's going to lose her car, unless we pay at least the first half of the bill. I'm not sending money, I said. Why? His voice cracked like glass. Why are you doing this? Why are you cutting us off like we're strangers? You made us strangers, I said, when you used your children as hostages in a guilt campaign, when you sent me a live animal and pretended it was a joke, when you stopped calling me Dad and started treating me like a walking ATM. He didn't reply. You chose this, Michael. He hung up. Jessica and I finished dinner in silence. That night, I went into my home office and opened the filing cabinet. I pulled out the manila folder labeled Michael. Support history. Inside were over 40 receipts and printouts, bank transfers, credit card payments, rent deposits, tuition, groceries, utilities, and debt consolidations. 15 years of quiet assistance. Over $173,000 in total, not including the car I gave him, not including the cash I handed him during the holidays, not including the bills I paid when Natalie lost her job again. I spread the papers out across my desk. My hands shook, not with regret, but with clarity. Helping him hadn't built anything. It had only deepened the hole. This wasn't generosity. It was erosion.